So 30 days ago, I decided to run an experiment on myself. No fruits, no vegetables, no fiber, just beef, eggs, salt, and water. Now, depending on who you ask, that is either the most natural human diet there is, or it's the fast track shortcut to a heart attack. So today, I'm going to show you exactly what happened after 30 days on the carnivore diet, what I honestly experienced, and whether I'm going to stay on it any longer, or if I've already had a pizza and a beer. I'll share the lab results, the blood pressure, the weight change, the measurements, as well as my own personal thoughts on the overall experience. So, for those of you who have been following the semi-daily updates, you know that this was a full 30-day challenge. But if you're new here, I'm TR, I'm a personal trainer and a nutrition coach. I work exclusively with people over 50, and I wanted to see what would happen if someone in my age bracket tried a strict carnivore diet for a full month. And big surprise, I couldn't find any volunteers, so here I am. The first thing is stuff that you can't really measure in a lab. I kept a journal for the month, and as I read back the days, I began to realize that a lot of what I was observing and was experiencing were arbitrary things you can't really quantify or prove on some kind of spreadsheet. The first thing that I noticed was mental clarity. In the afternoon, on day 5, I noticed that the brain fog and the fatigue that I usually experience by then just wasn't there. And by the end of that first week, my energy felt steady. There was no highs and lows during the day. My hunger also was very interesting because when you're eating only protein and fat, you stay full for a lot longer. So I never really got those hunger cravings anymore. Throughout the 30 days in the gym, I didn't feel any weaker. If anything, I felt stronger and more stable. Recovery felt solid as well. The tennis elbow and the aching fingers that I feel all the time, every day, was completely gone. So I was convinced that the inflammation was substantially reduced by this diet. It was a relief to know that my pain wasn't arthritis or strained cartilage or ligaments. It was inflammation from carbohydrates in my diet. And when I got rid of that, I got rid of the pain. The second thing is sleep. I personally never have had much of a problem falling asleep, but I did usually wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning, and I would have a lot of trouble getting back to sleep. My brain would just start thinking about things and worrying and rewinding conversations from the day. So what I wanted to do was really wanted to see what carnivore would do to my sleep quality. Personally, I found that sleep felt deeper. Also, I started waking up a few minutes before my 5 a.m. alarm on several occasions, which is something I never used to do. From the end of week 1 all the way to day 30, I didn't have those sort of middle of the night wake-ups nearly as often. Only if I'd had water too close to going to sleep and I had to get up to use the bathroom, or maybe the dog would wake me up to go out too. But even then, I would be able to go right back to a deep sleep. So the third thing, the numbers. This is the thing that I can actually measure. On day 1, the measurement around my waist was around 36 3/4. On day 30, it was 35 1/2. In addition to my waist, I did reference measures of thighs, arms, and chest. There was no loss of muscle size. I started at a weight of 187.6 and ended at 184.2. Some of that was water weight. Blood pressure remained unchanged throughout the entire experiment within an average range for my age group. And I had a continuous blood sugar monitor, which consistently also registered in the healthy range. And I think this is the part that everyone's kind of been waiting for. I ran a full metabolic panel before starting the experiment, and then again at the end after 30 days. So there was total cholesterol, HDL, LDL, triglycerides, glucose. I think the marker that most people are worried about with carnivore is cholesterol. And one thing to keep in mind is that 1 month is really not enough time to draw any huge conclusions. It's just a snapshot in time. One of the things I learned doing this experiment is that nutrition can get very confusing very quickly. There's lots of conflicting advice. Everyone has a strong opinion. It could be carnivore or keto or intermittent fasting or plant-based diets. And then you add to that, if you're over 50, your body responds differently than it did when you're 25. That's actually one of the reasons I wrote my book. It's not a carnivore book. It's a practical guide to help people over 50 simplify nutrition, prioritize protein, protect muscle, and get their metabolism working again. If you're interested, I'll put a link in the description below. The right-hand side is my blood work before starting this experiment. It was 30 days ago. The left-hand side are the results afterwards. Each category stayed in the normal range and ended there too. Nothing too low, nothing too high. Anything below the 200 reference range for total cholesterol is considered healthy. I started at 164 and I ended at 188. My HDL, the good cholesterol, went from 42 to 44. Triglycerides went up from 57 to 59. LDL went from 91 to 97, and the risk assessment ratio between the total went from 4.1 to 4.3. Non-HDL went from 118 to 124, and glucose dropped from 92 to 67. In short, I'd say the takeaway is that at least in terms of the numbers, this experiment was metabolically a success. My cholesterol stayed solid, my triglycerides remained low, and my blood sugar dropped to an optimal level, and my internal chemistry stayed remarkably stable. So my body did successfully shift its fuel source without putting any undue stress on my system. So the fifth thing, I think one of the biggest surprises was how simple eating became. There was no labels to read, no ingredient lists, just food. Grocery shopping got much easier, and despite me expecting that buying free-range beef and organic eggs was going to be much more expensive, it really didn't change that much at all. Yes, beef and steak can add up, but with no yogurt, cottage cheese, fruits, vegetables, protein powder in the shopping cart, it was actually cheaper. Which brings me to the sixth thing, which is the downsides. Social situations become awkward pretty quickly when you're the only person eating a steak while everyone else is having a full plate. There's the horrified face that the waiter makes when you tell him you only eat beef and you don't want the hollandaise sauce or the potatoes and so forth. It's awkward. And eating only for fuel is boring. There's only so many ways you can cook beef. Although eggs are a little more versatile, you can do scrambled or poached or hard-boiled and so on. And there was definitely days when the steak sizzling on the grill smelled really good, but going out with friends and not having wine or appetizers definitely felt like I was depriving myself. And I'm not really all that much of a sweet tooth kind of guy, but I do like my slices of apples and peanut butter as a midday snack, maybe some honey in my tea or my flavored creamer in the coffee. Those things were comfort foods, and I only did them in moderation, but I really did miss them. So am I going to continue? Strictly speaking, carnivore diet is all or nothing kind of thing. You're either in or you're out, especially in terms of ketones and lipolysis, which is the science behind why carnivore works at all. I'm going to reintroduce chicken and fish, cottage cheese and yogurt, and my whey protein shakes. Strictly speaking, that isn't carnivore anymore, no, but there are definitely aspects of the diet that I do like. I'm going to treat this as a reboot. I'm going to slowly add different things back into my diet in a controlled sort of way and pay attention to how they make me feel. Of course, I'm also going to continue to avoid sugars and preservatives and seed oils and fake food as I have for years. So is carnivore worth it? My final thoughts on this experience is that the carnivore diet can be an extremely powerful tool, but for me personally, as a permanent lifestyle, I don't think I could sustain it. Maybe once in a while for a short-term reset or even for an elimination diet. This experiment actually reinforced one of the main ideas in my book, and that is that protein and muscle preservation become the most important nutritional priorities after 50. And at the end of the day, the goal isn't to become dogmatic about any one single diet. The goal is to find a way of eating that supports your strength, your energy, and your longevity. So for me, this 30-day carnivore experiment was incredibly interesting, and it definitely taught me a few things about how my body responds to food. So if you've experimented with carnivore yourself, drop a comment and tell me what your experience was. And if you have any questions about something that I didn't cover, ask me that too. I read every comment. So that's it for now, and I'll see you guys next week.